Hey guys, my name is JessiMew, and welcome back to Adam's Quest. In the last episode, after a bit of a tribe-wide baby boom, it seems as though Adam's family is ready to take the mountain by storm. We've seen the birth of quite a few babies with very important genes, like the heat body. The heat body is actually becoming pretty dominant in our tribe, and that can only be a good thing. It melts all the snow around them when we skip the day, so this is a great way for us to build our pathways between various parts of our tribe. And not only that, but our newest little baby in the nest actually has the wings too. So Phoenix could fly anywhere on this mountain. He can go down the cliffs, he can save those who might be trapped in the snow. So we know that training him is going to be very, very important. Anako is going to have quite a bit of work on her paws. She's getting a little bit cold though, so let's have her cozy up next to her mate. Maybe she could even try to dig up some of these roots since Silver is a little bit too tired right now. I guess we could bring Duke Nuki over here too. Try to paw away at that ground for us, because goodness knows we could use a few more morsels. It's not going to be worth very much since you don't have the digging paw, but at least that's one meal for your baby. Without any balance bears or ram foxes, or even the walrus deer to give us food, we are really struggling to restore our food supplies. Duke Vanta was meant to be our savior in that way, but he is a little bit lost at the moment, and unfortunately there is not a trace of any roots on these shores. So I think it's going to be time for him to turn back soon, because we know there are plenty of roots for him to dig up elsewhere, but that all depends if he can claw his way through all of the snow that is sure to continue piling up. I guess he's going to have to just make his way down the shore. Maybe he could even run into Scrooge. He and Cinnamon could keep everybody warm if they're all huddled together, so despite the lack of hot springs around here, I'm sure that Scrooge isn't giving this up. They should be able to make sure that Duke Vanta has plenty of energy. And speaking of energy, we do have plenty of that here for you, Coco. You have so many little babies to watch after now. You have Dancer, who's ready to take on her very first gem, and just like her big brother, she'll be taking on the yellow gems. Then you have your own baby who's trying his best to find more roots, but he's not very good at sniffing around. We'll probably have to see if you can find some roots for him, but first, I think you're going to have to tidy up this place. It looks like she may have lost track of all of those stumps that she had at the Siren Springs, so maybe we should start melting the snow. We'll have you gently nudge Dancer over to Jingle's side. He can watch out for her for now. And then why don't you come on over here? So we should be able to move Van Ronu a bit closer to the stump. In fact, jump on top of this one, and then we'll move him right to your side. Now he can melt all of the snow around you. He's actually going to be pretty valuable here, not only as a Bluebird leader, but also as somebody who can keep the space clear for anybody who might be injured. This is where we're setting up our healers after all, so she has to make sure that this place is clear for patients. We might even want to attract the attention of some of our other heat-bodied individuals. But for Cuckoo, I had something else in mind for his story. With the food situation the way that it is, it might actually be beneficial for us to consider essentially banishing some of our tribe mates. That would mean that they would still wander around the mountains, just like a regular wanderer would. But they won't be part of our tribe, so they won't be eating our food. If we do restore our food supplies later, we could always try to track them down and maybe invite them again. But if I were to choose any creatures who would want to strike off on their own, I feel like it would be this group right here. Cuckoo was on his own to begin with. He was actually taking care of that blind baby. And since his child has disappeared once more, maybe he would want to go out and search for him. Then Mistletoe. He's always seemed a little bit more interested in the adventure anyways. He hasn't even been around to raise his own child, and I'm sure that Coco is getting a little bit frustrated. Here she has all of these babies to manage, and her own mate hasn't even been home in ages. He hasn't lifted a paw to raise Jingle, so if I'm being completely honest, it wouldn't surprise me if those two decided to go their separate ways. It's kind of sad because they seem so smitten for each other at first, but maybe it's because they were blinded by that young romance that they didn't realize they both had different goals in mind. One wants to go off and explore the world with all of his friends, while the other has a very strict duty to her tribe. She knows that she's doing her mentor proud though, so I can't imagine that she would want to change her ways. This is exactly where she's meant to be. Now I think all we have left up here is Prophet and his family. Now, Prophet is our last remaining oracle, the last one with those antennas that can predict the weather for us. So if he's going to pass today, and if he doesn't have any kids who can tell us the weather too, we're going to be missing a very crucial piece of information. It's not essential that we have the antennas on the mountains, but it does really help. Then we would at least know if the warm-up is coming. So we're going to cross our fingers as we scoot Ginger down to this tile. Whoa! Oh, that is a deep drop. The snow must have confused you, little one. Gosh, if we're going to build a nest right here, I hope your baby is going to be able to claw their way out of these cliffs. Well, maybe that would be a good spot to have your baby, to be honest. Maybe that means the bluebird won't even notice as he's circling overhead. You've kind of hidden them away amongst the rocks. So go ahead and breed with Ginger, and then we'll have her build her nest right here. And then I guess that's going to be the end of your story. Now, whether or not we see a baby with the antennas, that doesn't mean that we can't see them again somewhere further down the line. We do still have the antennas hidden away in the inactive traits of so many of our creatures, so I think one way or another the oracles are going to come back. In fact, I think that Prophet probably has this in mind too. He knows that as he passes today, he's going to have to seek out Mooneye and Crescent to plead with them. Prophet has made plenty of mistakes in his lifetime. He's strayed from his path, he's strayed from his tribe, but he doesn't want that to bring ruin to his family. He knows this is his chance to prove that the oracles can be strong again, so I think he would tell his family not to fear. He'll always be watching out for them in one form or another. So with his last 2 remaining turns, let's have him flatten out some of the snow around the nest. That way he'll know that his baby will be able to run around and play, and goodness knows she is going to need plenty of room. This little beast is very, very strong. So I think we should be ready to skip the day now. Unless we can find something for you to do, Jingle. It's not as though we want him to get too far away from the baby. Maybe we should just have him stay right there. It'll be nice and toasty warm inside that hot spring anyways. So let's go ahead and skip the day. You know, I'm not sure if we're even going to be able to see this baby. She's down so low in the cliffs. Are we even going to be able to click on him? Oh my gosh. Oh, you are completely snowed in now too. Well, I do see a sunny little baby. I don't see the megalosaurus horns either, so maybe he has the antennas? I guess we're going to have to click on you, Ginger, and see if we can find him inside your family tree. I'm pretty sure it was a male. It seems to be a son. Oh my gosh, and he does have the antennas. So I guess we don't have to wait quite as long as we figured for the oracles to come back. I guess Mooneye and Crescent were willing to listen to Prophet after all. He does actually have quite a bit of similarities to Prophet anyways, so maybe he is a direct reincarnation of the little oracle. It makes me want to give him some sort of sun-related name too, since the oracles were known as the strength of the sun in their time. So let's name this little baby Sunrise. I don't think we've named any of the oracles Sunrise yet, and it's fitting too since this is kind of like the rebirth of the oracles in general. So Sunrise will hopefully be able to lead his family to greatness if he can dig himself out of this giant hole that he's in anyways. I guess we'll let them keep the flower crown gems just like Ginger. So it's time for Pala to enjoy her first day with her eyes open. I feel like she'd probably want to jump straight on top of the stump. We'll bring her right over here. That should still keep her protected too, and she can help by searching for dangers between all of the snow. Honestly, Ginger, I have no idea how on earth you are going to clear out the snow if you don't have the help of some heat-bodied creature. So let's bring you up here to your old nest, and then I guess you can start shoveling away at all of the snow with your big bear Yena claw. That actually might help Silver get around. No, he's still kind of stuck. I think we're going to have to ask Duke Nuke here to shovel you out of that hot spring then. I mean, we have so much food down here, we can't possibly let that go to waste. So why don't we scoot Anako to the side too? She could actually use her big wings to shovel out the snow as well. I guess we'll have to bring Duke Nukier up here. That way he can pick up this snow. We just want to make sure that he has the most turns as possible. That only means more food for us. So can you make it through that snowdrift? No, this one is still too much. Well, at least he still has 2 days remaining. So even if he can't pick up all of the food on this turn, he should be able to pick it up in the next turn instead. Yeah, let's go ahead and set you up right here, I guess. That should be close enough. It's always so hard to see where the food is actually located when it snows like this. The silhouettes blend in so well with the snowy background. But with everybody working together, we'll be able to melt all of that snow in no time. Let's actually have Duke Nukier settle down right here so we can melt everything around. That way, if there is more food to go around, you should definitely be able to find it. We could even have Phoenix flutter down from his stump. He'll be nice and safe next to his father. And then Anako can once again cozy up between them, so everybody is going to be nice and toasty warm. I could almost see her using those massive wings of hers to huddle her baby close, even though he doesn't really need the extra warmth. It seems like the wings would still make a pretty good barrier against the cold chill of the mountain air. Now, unfortunately, Phoenix is not quite old enough to help you guys, but you are definitely going to need to find some roots out here. So I still don't see any in the snow. We could bring you over here, Cinnamon, to sniff a little bit deeper, but it looks like everything is still unfortunately bare. In fact, the only root I see is one right over here next to Scrooge, so I guess it's a good thing that you guys are making your way down the shore. Let's have Duke Vanta jump as far as he possibly can, and we'll see if you guys can pound your way through the snow. Oh no, if only we had Clove over here. She might be able to flatten out the snow a bit faster. But would she be willing to leave her precious nest? That's the question. I feel like she's far too connected to this place, and her smashing down the snowdrifts might actually help other creatures come by instead. Like Jingle and Dancer, for instance. Maybe if they can claw their way out of the snow too, they'll be able to do a little bit of digging with Jingle's digging paw. So let's see if we can start bringing them that way. Since Dancer actually has her second gem now, she should be able to move around with a bit more ease. And given her playful name, I could definitely see her trampling her way through the snow with no cares in the world. That will be very helpful for you, Jingle, so you would do well to stick right by her side. We could have Coco go ahead and clear out the extra snow around her. That way you should be able to settle in quite nicely next to her too. We could even bring you to the other stump for now. Then you can light up the way for Van Rona to get as close as possible to the nursery. I'm sure that Coco would probably nudge him that way, especially now that he's old enough. She could use the help at her Siren Springs, but she sees that Clove is struggling too. So it's a sacrifice that she's willing to make. He is the leader after all, so he's going to have to get used to jumping into everybody's aid. Now Scrooge, since you do have that route right next to you, let's make sure that you're keeping this pathway clear. I wonder if he would notice that Duke Vanta's struggling behind him, and with a slight change of heart, he knows he has to help the digging trunk. It's kind of funny because Scrooge used to be so jealous of Duke Vanta. He could always collect way more food than Scrooge ever could. But I think a little bit of Clove's warm heart is starting to rub off on him. She is clearly a pretty good influence, and I guess it's that dedication to her job that is truly changing his ways. So, Clove, I think there might be another nest right here. Why don't you go ahead and flatten out that snow, and then we'll have you sit right here to finish the job. Honestly, thank goodness Phoenix is going to have his second gem on the next turn, because we could desperately use his help right now. That's why he's so important. If he just flies right down here, he'll melt all the snow around poor Duke Vanta. And now we just have our wandering group left. And I think I did actually see that our little blind creature was nosing around them too. He's starting to get a little bit cold again. Yeah, I really feel like Cuckoo just wants to follow his child, especially now that his debt to our tribe has surely been repaid. He kept our nurseries safe until Clove came along, so now he doesn't really have much of a reason to be here anymore. So we know he's not going to be able to steal our food. He doesn't have any digging paws, so it'll be very hard for him to dig up the roots. But at the same time, I found that just having wanderers on the mountain is actually a pretty good way to track down the food sources. So even though it'll be sad to see these creatures go, I think in the long run it's really going to help us out, especially to make sure that we don't end up starving. So while I would normally reserve this just for the leaders, I think we're going to have to make an exception here. Maybe Dasher could take the message back to Van Ronu. So just for the moment, we're going to change him to the rank of an alpha, so we can change Cuckoo to an omega, and Mistletoe too. I think it's only fitting that he leaves with Cuckoo. The two can go track down the Blind Wanderer together side by side. So go ahead and banish Cuckoo for us. Oh my goodness. Oh, he wasted no time at all. Disappearing right off the bat, it's clear he was ready to leave our tribe. And then we'll bring Mistletoe over here as well, and you can banish him too. So you're going to have quite the message to bring back to your tribe, but I think we're going to have you wait one more day. You could use all of the energy you can get after all, so just go ahead and grab those flowers for us, and then we'll have you try to claw your way to another one of these hot springs. He's one of the creatures who really shouldn't be traveling alone anyways. He doesn't have the body structure for it, so he's not as hardy against the cold chill of the mountain air. But I think we're ready to skip our turn again, so let's go ahead and zoom out. We don't have any babies to watch, so we'll just make sure that no balance bears are popping up in the meantime. Oh, and what a great way for us to track Cuckoo. Since he does have the heat body, he's going to be leaving those giant imprints in the snow. We'll be able to see him no matter where he wanders on the mountainside. Kind of like if a wanderer is making a pathway through the snow, it's always easy to tell if a certain part of the mountain needs her attention. But oh my goodness, look at all of the snow. All around the nursery too. Oh, poor Clove. You are completely snowed in now. Maybe you'll have to think about packing up those nests. Maybe you could even go all the way up to the top of the mountain, and you could join forces with your sister again. This might actually be a better place for us to build our nursery anyways, aside from this giant dip that poor Sunrise is in right now. Actually, now that he has his first gem, let's see if we can take a closer look at his weather prediction. So in 3 days, it's going to be sunny again. I guess that means that in 3 days, the snow is finally going to stop piling up, but it's not quite going to be warm enough to truly start to melt it. So the summertime is still quite a long ways away. But I do think that this would be a better spot for our nursery, because it would allow us to see from every corner of the mountain. They would even be able to see the glaciers in the distance, so they would know for sure when it has melted, and they can finally progress again. But if we are going to do that, then we're going to have to make sure our heat-bodied creatures can actually build those paths. So Minako, maybe it's time that you finally teach your son how to fly? He has 2 gems now, so he should be safe from the bluebirds, and I think he is ready to stretch his wings. So how far can you 2 get? Oh, you could actually go all the way down to the nursery? You know what, that might be the best way to do it then. Let's bring Phoenix right down here. Oh, isn't Clove going to be shocked? She would probably like this baby to stay in the nursery forever, since he would make such a great heater for the babies. But it's not all fun and games, and until he knows that all of his tribe mates are safe, I don't think he's willing to settle down anywhere yet. Let's bring his mother in a shadow. She could slip down right here, congratulating her son, of course, for his wonderful work. And then I wonder if he might hear Duke Vanta's struggling in the distance. Luckily, he still has all 3 gems, so he might be able to make it over to that root on the stern. Oh, fingers crossed that root is still there. It didn't despawn, right? Yep, it is just sitting tantalizingly right next to Scrooge. So we don't want to leave Cinnamon in the dust. We'll have him trail as fast as he can right behind you. The poor thing is really starting to show his age, I think. It's very, very hard for him to keep up with the nimble-footed creatures of his tribe. Maybe it's also because of that mammoth foot and that Berryina claw too. Probably makes it a little bit tougher for him to move around. So go ahead and dig up that lovely root for us, Duke Vanta. It's not going to be much, but at least it's going to keep some of our tribe mates fed, so we can struggle on just a few days longer. Now if we have Scrooge go ahead and dig out some more of the snow around him, we should be able to have Phoenix land straight next to Duke Vanta. So on the next turn, he'll be able to officially light up the pathway between the shore and our Siren Springs, and I'm sure that Vanronu will be very grateful for his help. It's probably nice for him to know that he's not the only one with a heat body, since he hasn't really seen anybody else with that trait in his lifetime. So he has quite the little network of heat bodies to work with, and maybe those two can come up with a plan to make sure that all of their pathways are always safe. Even you, Duke Nuke, you'll be very helpful too. In fact, let's have your friend Silver scoot on over here so he can dig up both of these roots for you. There you go, little guy. It's quite fitting that his last turn is spent gathering food for the tribe. I'm still a bit sad that he was never able to find a suitable partner for himself, so he never had any children of his own. But I suppose just like Prophet and all of his oracle ancestors, eventually Silver's gifts can make their way back to our tribe too. Rebirth is actually a common theme in his line. He was only given these powers because of Daybreak, who had a little bit of the oracle's blood in him too. So I'm sure that we're going to see that platypus beak pop up again someday. Ah yes, this is what I like to see. So our wanderer has very graciously pointed out another route in the snow, and I guess that's something that Dasher's going to have to take back to the tribe too. Now this isn't going to be an easy journey for you, but you know it must be done, so let's bring you around this way, and you can try your best to claw your way through the snow. He's so close to one of those hot springs. Maybe he'll be able to stumble his way into it on the next turn. Or perhaps, maybe even Phoenix is going to notice him struggling next. He's really not that far away from the tribe, so I suppose if he took to the skies and glided overhead, he would take notice of those Megalosaurus horns in no time. Probably doubly so because he just got through helping Scrooge and Duke Fanta. It's kind of interesting how those with the Megalosaurus horns seem to be the ones who need the most help out of our tribe. That's a good way for us to pick them out of those snowdrifts though, so we are definitely not complaining. Now Vanronu, maybe we should bring you closer to the nursery? If your new friend is going to be helping the Wanderers, you would be much more useful right here. And you can use that old tactic of shoveling out the snow with those big wings of yours. Oh, and the nests too? Well, since I'm sure you're trying your best to convince Clove that it's time to pack up and leave, maybe it would be a good idea for you guys to finally pick up these nests. It's probably pretty sad for her to pack away these things. She put so much of her heart and soul into making sure it was perfect. But it just means you can have some fun constructing them all over again when you get to the very top of that hill. And this time it's going to be a nursery of her own crafting. Not one that she's inherited from her ancestors, so she can truly make sure that it's all in perfect condition. Now I'm not really sure that we have any roots for you to dig up, Jingle. We really need to get somebody in your little traveling group who can smell a bit farther than you can. I mean, I guess Dasher might actually be good for that. I know he was planning on joining his friends once he brought the message to our leaders, but maybe he'll end up staying around just to help his siblings gather food. Dancer, after all, while she does want to help Jingle, she's not very good at sniffing either, so maybe she would plead with her big brother. He does have quite a bit of experience after all, quite a bit of knowledge from his friends. She could convince him that they really need his help more. We'll bring you up the mountain though, shoveling out the snow and whatnot, because we know that there are definitely roots up here for you to find. And then I suppose we could bring Coco down to this stump instead, because I'm sure she's heard all of the commotion by the shores, and she probably wants to get a better look at the situation too. After all, if anybody is injured, that's going to fall on her, so she's going to be keeping a very close eye on them indeed. Now as far as Duke Nuke, I suppose it would probably be the wisest choice for us to just make sure that he's flattening out the snow. We'll bring him right next to Silver so he's still right by his side. And I suppose it's going to be up to Jingle to set his remains to rest. So I really hope you two can find a good route up here. Maybe one will spawn in the next turn. And last but not least, our little oracles. We'll change Palace Gem over to the pink color in the middle, and then it's going to be time for you to test out your new abilities. You guys have mentioned that she should be strong enough to actually crack open these stones. With a 10 in strength, she can destroy anything in her path, even the very land beneath her feet. So we could start thinking of this place as not only a nursery, but also as a little fortress. And thanks to Pala, we should be able to construct it to our liking. We just have to find the rocks again so we know exactly what we're working with. But for the sake of science, let's just see how she does cracking open the stone right next to the stump. I suppose it would probably be a good idea to open this pathway anyways. And yes, you are a little beast, just as we figured. So go ahead and hop down from your stump, and we'll see if you can dig out some more rocks in the meantime. We could have Ginger do the same, flattening down the snow around her with those big mammoth feet of hers, and then maybe climbing onto her old mate's throne. Something a little bit nostalgic for her, and it gives her baby room to actually claw his way out of that cliff. Oh, you poor little thing. I'm not sure how you even managed to get out of there. Maybe he grabbed hold of his big sister's horns or something. They're certainly large enough to do the job. So one last time, let's go ahead and skip the turn. Unfortunately saying goodbye to Silver in the process. But at least he left us with a little bit of extra food. And now that the pathway is clear, that means that you, Duke Vanta, can finally join the rest of the tribe in the nice, warm safety of the Siren Springs, and even right next to the beautiful healer herself. I wonder if these two would share a bit of a connection, especially because I'm sure she's feeling so lonely right now. Her mate has never returned, and pretty soon when Dasher comes back, he's just going to bring the news that he's decided to leave for good. So maybe it's a good thing that she's feeling a little flutter in her heart when she looks at Duke Vanta. And even though we've already set up her mutation menu, there's still the chance that we could see some double digging pod babies. So even though they might not have the digging chunk, because I'm pretty sure the Persnat will overtake that, they'll still have a digging skill that will be close enough to their fathers. So I think that's a family we'll take a closer look at in the next episode, as soon as the Dasher's message has been brought to the tribe. In fact, let's make sure that we have Phoenix swoop in to save the day. How close can he get to Dasher? I guess we could bring him right here. Maybe he wants to test out the hot springs himself, and then he'll be able to jump straight over to Dasher's side next. That'll also give him the opportunity to meet all of our wanderers too, Cuckoo and Mistletoe, who seem a little bit reluctant to leave their friend behind. But maybe seeing Phoenix here will finally put their minds at ease. And I know that Duke Nuke here is going to swoop up Jingle as soon as he sees that digging paw. Let's have him guide the babies up the cliffs a little bit more. We'll bring them all side by side, so they should be able to make their way to the cliffs, where I'm pretty sure we have just a couple more morsels waiting. That would be a great place for them to bury Silver too, or maybe even Prophet himself. Now that they've finally reconciled, the two can spend more time together in the afterlife. So the next episode is going to be make or break for this tribe. Well, I'm sure that there's still a way that we could struggle on thanks to our Persnauts, even if our tribe starts to starve. We only have a couple more days worth of food before things start to get really tough. I suppose the best case scenario would be if we have a balance bear spawn, because that's 30 days worth of food right there. But that's only if our ancestors decide to be kind and send one our way. So until then, all focus is going to be spent on the digging paw. But for now, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye guys!